What up, YouTube? Before we start the video, we got a very important announcement for you.
That's right, we have our new milestone giveaway for 2,000 subscribers. That is a CGC 9.8 graded Thor #1. This cover is a Nick Klein sketch variant that is also signed by Donnie Cates.
What? Are you crazy? Yes, we are. When we hit 2,000 subs, we're giving away this bad boy. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and give us a like. It would be much appreciated because we want to give this away, but we only can do that when we hit 2,000 subs. Let's get to the video. What up, comic fam? I'm Jim.
I'm Blaine.
And you're watching a fresh new Comic Book Day video on the channel of Two Fat Guys Pull List for the week of April 30th. Straight into January. I don't know what we were doing there. But anyway, it's a light week. And we are also, as you saw in the intro, we are joined by Blaine, who is our guest host for this time being, as Nate is finding a new place in this transition. So Blaine will be here every new Comic Book Day until we get that situated. So I feel like I have to say that every time because there are some viewers that kind of pop in and they're like, who's this guy? So this is who this guy is. He is part of the Comic Club podcast. And Blaine, why don't you let us know what you're reading this week on the show?
Sure. Yeah. So each month on the show, we read a comic or graphic novel. And we have a first impressions, which is kind of our spoiler-free episode, and then we have our full episode. This month in April, we're doing Books of Doom. We're about to publish our full spoiler-filled thing. It gives the overview of Victor Von Doom. It's by Ed Brubaker. And then coming up next month, which I'm already reading, we're doing The Inkle by Jodorowsky and legendary artist Mobius. So if that interests you, go check out the pod.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. All right, well, let's get into the fresh new Comic Book Day for the 30th. We're going to kick it off with our indies, and we've got Grimm, issue number 22 from Stephanie Phillips. It's been a while since this book has been on the show, quite frankly, and when it does this kind of hiatus, it's kind of, I will say it's a little bit hard to kind of jump back into it. It's unapologetic in that sense. We've got Jessica, who is the daughter of death, and right now nobody can die. And she's hesitant to take up the mantle of death. Her father kind of passed it on to her unwillingly, and she's not really happy about it, but she's learning about her family. She's learning about her mom. She's death. Nobody can die, but they can still, be in somewhat of a gruesome state. So we've got people with like their heads cut off and, no blood in them. And it's just a crazy time, but we're still getting these backstory. We're kind of like in this backstory arc right now. So again, I enjoy the book. I think it's a fun book. Stephanie Phillips is definitely in her element in Grimm. But with it always constantly being on hiatus, it's really hard when it gets back on the pool to jump back in and feel really excited about it. By the end of the book, I'm like, okay, I want more. And they're like, oh, wait another month or two, maybe 3 months before you get another book. So Grimm has been fun. But every time it jumps in and out of the pool, it gets a little bit harder for me to, I wouldn't say something positive about it, but it's just kind of frustrating. Like, you want consistency, and this book is taking its time.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about something that used to be big and prominent in comics was kind of like a last time on. Marvel did it with all their books, every single one, and I think kind of DC backed away from doing it a little bit first, and then now they barely ever do it. Sometimes it's a little paragraph, and we have to juggle so many stories in our head with comic books, and it'd be nice to have those pages. And I like it when people do get really creative with them, like they do like in media universe stuff where it's just like you're reading an email from a character or something like that. But Stephanie Phillips is an interesting writer. She kind of has goth vibes. So, telling a story, about death and this whole world seems to suit her. So that's kind of interesting.
No, it started off with a bang, but now we've kind of settled to the point where now it's kind of trudgy. So hopefully it'll pick up. After that, we have Void Rivals from Robert Kirkman. This book is doing a lot. This is the centerpiece, even though it feels more like Transformers is the centerpiece of the Energon universe. I mean, that kind of makes sense. But Void Rivals really is supposed to be the central hub of what Kirkman is doing with the Transformers, Void Rivals, and G.I. Joe. And we've gotten all three story elements in Void Rivals. More so Transformers and G.I. Joe, even though we've started to get Cobra La kind of seeping into the storyline in space. But right now, there's still this mystery behind these beings that are related to the Transformers via Energon. We've got the planet that they live on is essentially their version of Unicron, if you know who that is. So we've got a lot of similar elements amongst these characters, and we're inching towards a climax. It would appear, again, kind of like Grimm. It's been on and off, and when we get on, it's sometimes hard to kind of remember what's going on. But Void Rivals has been fun, and I think it's one of those things that I don't know if it's Kirkman's Invincible. I don't know if it's that, but he's swinging. He's swinging hard to the fence because this is Hasbro's baby. I think that I'm not trying to be that speculator, right? But if you don't have Void Rivals in your collection, at least the first arc, maybe go try to find it, because I feel like at some point Hasbro is going to pull the trigger on what Kirkman is doing here. At least they're hoping to. And if he can stick the landing with this arc or with this whole storyline, then I think we got a pretty big, something big here, because Transformers is having obviously a resurgence. It has been for the past 10 years. And when Void Rivals came out and they were saying that Transformers was going to be involved, they were saying G.I. Joe was going to be involved, that perked a lot of people's ears up. So if you're looking for kind of an original, but also, what's the word? IP driven book, Void Rivals is probably for you.
So whenever you said Hasbro might be looking to pull the trigger on this, what do you mean by that? Like as in a show or a movie? Or,
I think
or
both.
What are you saying?
I think both. So like in our most recent, what was the most recent Transformers movie? It was the one where they
Rise of the Beasts, Beast Wars,
yeah,
or with the
right. And so at the end of that, one of the main characters ends up being initiated into the G.I. Joe. So you're like,
Totally.
oh shit. So here we go. Like,
yes,
we're starting to play with our our different franchises. And I think Void Rivals as a comic, even though it's much more off at its own, doing its own thing, I think there's an opportunity there, specifically because Hasbro's fingers are in Void Rivals. Like, they own part of it. And so Kirkman, I think, has been, I don't want to say he's been given the James Gunn treatment, but they see what they've done with The Walking Dead. They've seen what he's done with Invincible over on Amazon. So I could see it happening.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great call. And, it's kind of hard to hear that this has been maybe spotty in terms of the release structure, because Robert Kirkman's so great. He's created such these like great legacies of independent books. I mean, he's like the independent guy, right? Like, he's so good at that. And, he's Skybound and everything like that.
Yeah.
I did read the first arc, and as soon as I caught a whiff of Transformers and G.I. Joe, I was just like, I don't care about those properties in the slightest. I really tried this time. I was like, I'm going to give them a try, and it just did not hit for me. But I liked this, like Romeo and Juliet, these two races that despise each other, then they teamed up. There was like this little story at the center of that I loved, this empire. There was a lot of universe building there that I thought was really fascinating. And then I was on like Scartex or whatever with this like character. People were like, oh, that's from whatever, something that I don't know, and it meant nothing to me.
Right.
And I was just like, sorry, I'm out.
Yep. Nate's kind of in the same boat when we read this book. He's just not, he didn't grow up watching cartoons, and that blows me away, because like Transformers, G.I. Joe not so much, but Transformers was like my bread and butter in the morning. Like, that outside of like DBZ, Transformers were sick. So it's just got a special spot in my heart whenever this book comes up. All right, let's take it over to, we got one more. Sorry, we got one more independent book from Image. We Are Taking Everyone Down With Us from Rosenberg. Issue 1, we knew what was coming, but it was still fun and kind of surprising. The artwork, really good. I think this is one of those books where the cover matches the interiors, and that makes me very happy, because I know what I'm getting myself into. But the story itself, the solicits were not shy about what this book was about, and so we knew what was going to happen. But still, the build up to this, this daughter who has an evil scientist for a father, who says he's doing good things, but he's actually doing quite terrible things, ends up being murdered, and one of his robots essentially is protecting her as her world around her is crumbling. And so she's kind of given at the end of the issue, it's kind of given this idea that she has a choice to make. Either she can run and survive, or she can seek revenge. I think by the title, we're going to be seeking some revenge.
Of course.
But the personality of the robots are really cool. There's more than one, but I think at the end there's only one. But there's like a hive mind at the beginning of the book. So now we're paired up with this other one that's it's dinged up. It's kind of malfunctioning, but it's taking care of the daughter. So we'll see where the story goes in issue 2. I enjoyed it. It was it was long. it was a long book, but I enjoyed it enough to the point where I didn't really notice it until the very end. I'm like, holy shit, I read that many pages. So looking forward to this issue. And because, well, no, I can't say it's Batois. There's one book on today's list that's just gonna, like, it's very obvious what it's going to be. So I'm not even gonna pretend that this is a Batois, but I am looking forward to the issue.
Yeah, I feel like I don't really know that much about this book, but I have been listening to the Image podcast, and Matthew Rosenberg was on it. I thought it was a really great interview. He had a lot of really good insights. And I talk a lot about publishers. They're doing well, they're in a lull, they're doing well, they're in a lull. I feel like we're kind of in an Image comeback right now. Not that they were ever gone by any means, because they've always been publishing quality content. But from what I've seen with their recent solicits, I think Reminder has a book, The Seasons. I think there's a lot of new number ones coming out. Tynan has that Exquisite Corpses coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Between this and some other stuff that I'm seeing, there's a lot of new number ones, and it feels like there's a lot of energy back in specifically Image comics. And I just love to see that, because a healthy indie community is good for creators. So that's awesome to see.
Yeah, I think with the indie stuff, with more and more creators either getting too big for their britches over at the big two, more so that they're just not getting paid enough. They're like, well, I can do my own thing and get paid way
And there's
more.
drama about that too, especially
Yeah.
at Marvel. There's a lot of stuff online about page rates.
Right. But like you're saying, a healthy independent market is good for everyone. And I totally agree with that. So yeah, cannot, you had mentioned Tiny Onions, indie, yeah. So fun fact, up here in Denver, I didn't know this, but Jorge Corona lives in the area, and he will be at Hall of Justice Comics doing signings and art. And he has an exclusive for that cover, which I'm super stoked to see. Yeah. So I'm like, giddy, because I didn't know that, so super excited for that. But anyway, let's move on.
Okay.
Up next, we have DC. We have Detective Comics Annual #1, written by Al Ewing.
Yeah, and I was asking you kind of before we popped on to record, do you buy all of your books you put on the pull list? And the reason is because I write them all out, the ones I want, but there is always a lot of maybe let's wait and sees. And I don't have a love and hate relationship with annuals. I hate them. I hate annuals.
Okay.
They kind of come out of nowhere, and sometimes creators pull them off and make them work. I don't know the business model, like the reason behind annuals. I don't know if it's like, let's shore up something. They're usually a tad more expensive. They're usually not directly in continuity. I don't know if they're doing them to like give some time or what the story is here. But I was clicking back on League of Comic Geeks, and the last Detective Comics annual was 2022. So we've had an annual in like 3 years. So it's just like, what? Then you have Al Ewing here writing and not the regular recurring artist. And to me, I don't need to buy them all. I'm not a collector that just has to have like every single one sequentially. I am somebody that's just like, annual didn't do it for me, or this specific arc didn't do it for me. I'm out, and then I'll jump back on. And that's just the kind of reader that I am. So this is very much one where I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to leaf through it. I used to be so high on Al Ewing. Whenever he was doing his Hulk run, Immortal Hulk, it was just like, this dude cannot miss. Like, and he was just firing on all cylinders with outside of that as well. And I think he has fallen off in my approximation in a lot of ways. I think he's still a really strong writer. He's very smart, but the characters that he's chosen to write, he's been on Venom forever, which I don't really care that much about Venom. I kind of fell off of his Thor run as well. And so to me, I thought he was going to become one of the superstars of specifically Marvel. It's interesting that he's over here playing around with some DC toys. I know he's also writing Metamorpho, but that story is much more like golden agey, like it doesn't even feel in the current continuity. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna peek inside this. Whether I buy it or not, you'll have to find out on the next episode of Two Fat Guys Pull List.
Find out this Sunday.
That's
That's
right.
awesome. Hey, I'm interrupting the video. It's only because I've got something really important to tell you. I know you know what we're giving away when we hit 2,000 subscribers. I gotta let you know about what we're giving away when we hit 1,250 subscribers. We're giving away this Uncanny X-Men #1 signed by Jim Chung, CGC grade 9.8. When we hit 1,250 subscribers, you could potentially win this, but you have to be subscribed to our channel. So hit that sub button, ring that bell, and give us a like. Let's get back to the video, shall we? Jumping over to Marvel, we're going to kick it off with the TVA issue #5 from Blair. I'll be honest, I am 2 issues behind. So I only have 5 books this week when I technically have 7 because there are 2 other issues that I have to read. I got caught up in the move up here to Colorado. So I have them. I got to read them. So I can't really be like, I know what I'm looking forward to in this issue. I mean, it's very clear that we have got the Scarlet Witch, or at least that's what the cover suggests. I do remember seeing something, of some spoilers of her being somewhere within this TVA storyline and past issues. So I guess it makes sense that she's here. I've enjoyed the TVA. I like it. It's just a fun, silly goose time for me. I like Spider-Gwen. I like that this is. I know that there are some times when I don't like the connectivity of the comics into the MCU, but this is one instance where, Blair's history of being a writer on Loki season 2, and it bleeding into her TVA run, I'm here for it. I enjoy it. I think it's a really cool mechanic. I think it's done well. When she was approached to write this book because of her writing on Loki season 2, so I have to read it. I wanted to read it, and it's fun. It's different, and we've got a ragtag group of heroes that are from all across the multiverse. It's very. It seems like the multiverse idea is about to die here soon within the movies in the MCU. At least I think that's where we're headed. At least with Secret Wars, and with Doom. So. May not be too long, and when I say too long, like in a couple of years, but
Sure.
it's fun. I think Blair is a really, really good writer, and she's doing a good job over here.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Okay, well, I mean, maybe there's a rude thing to say. I'm surprised a little bit at the popularity of this book because
Mm.
this is one that doesn't really jump out to me as a reader. It doesn't feel, from what I've gathered, like consequential to what I'm seeing. But having said all that, I do love these little niche multiversal jumping things. And if you can get a writer that, like, when you were talking, I was getting interested. Like, that
Hmm.
sounded really cool. But I'm seeing a lot of people come through my shop, pick this book up. One that I really like is Exiles. I believe it's kind of like an X-Men sort of like
Hmm.
multiversal hopping stories as well. I really like the Exiles because it's like it's not constant. It's not important to the mainline
Right.
Marvel comic universe, but they're just having fun over here with all these little alternate characters and stuff. And then this does relate a lot to what we've seen like in Loki and the TV shows. So I love multiversal storytelling. So I was interested based on what you were saying.
Yeah, when you give a writer the opportunity to stretch their legs and just like have some fun with characters and just no rules, right? Even though there are rules with time travel and multiversal consequence and all this stuff, allowing them to just do what they want to do and write the characters they want to write, and like you were saying, like continuity be damned, right? Just have some fun.
Yes.
And when you're doing it with characters that you have some familiarity with, that's a good time. So again, I would suggest trade for sure on this one
Okay.
if you haven't picked it up yet. All right, moving on to our last book of the night, and it's obvious. This is our, I mean, it's patois. It's Ultimate Spider-Man issue #16 from Jonathan Hickman and Chichetto. There are just so many questions, right? We left an arc where we killed off a character that you're like, well, when's he coming back, right? And it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good when the Goblin comes back. Like I have a feeling that he will, and it will be just straight up revenge. And the reason why I say that is because we still haven't had. I mean, that's probably been that's been the biggest death, right?
Big time.
On page on the
Yes.
book,
Yeah.
and so
Surprising.
the question is, when will Parker get his? Who in Parker's family is going to die? It's not going to be Ben. It's not going to be Ben. I think, and I've said this before, and Nate hates it when I say this, I think MJ is going to die in the Ultimate Universe.
Wow.
It's either going to be MJ or it's going to be one of the kids. Maybe it's his son because his son is donning the suit. So it's somebody of that close to Parker that I think is going to die, and I think we know who's going to kill them now, and it's going to be Norman, right? Is it not Norman?
No, it's Harry.
Harry Osborn, because he died a couple issues ago, like unexpectedly. Didn't see that one coming. And so I just got this feeling, and I'm not really talking about this issue. I'm more just saying, I think it's going to happen. I think the person that this ultimate version of Spider-Man is going to lose. It's either going to be MJ or it's going to be his son. I'm telling you. Right
That is really astute, and I hadn't even really considered it. I am not like a massive Spider-Man scholar. It's a big kind of black hole in my reading history. But one of the things that defines the character is tragedy. He's lost his aunt in this universe, as far as we understand. Or yes, he's lost his aunt. But you're right. There is not this like tragedy that defines this current iteration. MJ, I feel like would be tough because this MJ has a lot of, she has a lot going on with her. I feel like they're bringing her up in this story a lot in ways that we don't see MJ.
Yep.
Chiquetto does awesome hair for her. Like her hair is so awesome looking. The son is really interesting, especially with like he's got a relationship blooming with Black Cat. And he is kind of, I think we found out he was like 16. I think I assumed that he was like really young, or maybe 15. I think I assumed he was really young, but he is a candidate. And I hadn't even put that together. I hadn't even thought about it. I'm just along for this ride. Yeah. And it's interesting because Hickman has crafted this universe, and usually he does these sort of giga-brain stories that are like so overcomplicated, they're hard to follow. This is one of the most human stories that I think he's written. Very character focused. An issue around Christmas, an issue that's set in, an apartment complex or in, the Daily Bugle and stuff like this. And I think there's something really interesting that he's doing here. And then he's showing the cast of villains. He's just rolling them out so early, and we see Mysterio here on the cover, and like that, just look at that cover, it's stunning. The colors are so awesome, and I love this book so much. And now you've got the gears turning in my head because I hadn't even considered that, and now I'm like gonna brace myself for some sort of other unexpected death.
Hickman is, that's what he's doing. He's making us feel comfortable. He's making us feel, this is the Spider-Man book we've always wanted. We're getting everything, we're getting all of it. And I'm telling you, he's got his board in his basement with all the string, and he's like, don't you see? Like, he's literally leading us to the point where I wouldn't say it's disappointment, but it'll be like a satisfying, like, fuck you. Like that's what, like, we'll, like, the book will end and we'll be like, God damn it. So I'm telling you it's coming. But either way.
I loved the depiction of Mole Man in the Ultimate Universe. Mole Man is kind of like one of my weird kind of like favorite villains. Like, I don't even really know why. I haven't even read tons of Mole Man, but I just love him. And his design in this, where he's like taller and got the long nails, I just really clicked with him.
Yeah, Hickman's vision through Chiquetto has been absolutely amazing. All right, that's going to do it for this week's New Comic Day video for the week of April 30th. Let us know down in the comments, what are you picking up today? What are you reading first? What's your potential pick of the week? As always, make sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and give us a like. It's much appreciated because we're on the road to 1,250 subscribers, and we can't do it without your support. So if you're not already subbed, hit that sub button. Catch us live this Sunday, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, where we'll talk about all these books and some free comic book day books, because there are a ton of them out there, and we're going to talk about some of the ones that caught our eye that we really liked a lot. So make sure to join us this Sunday, and as always, comic fan, be kind to one another and read more comics. Later.